There was a man I once met named Charles, 74 years old. Lived alone in a quiet house on the edge of town. He had a garden he rarely watered, and a radio he left on even when no one was listening. One morning, Charles collapsed in the bathroom. No heart attack, no stroke. His heart was still beating, but his blood wasn't moving. At first, the doctors couldn't explain it. But Charles told me something later, something I've never forgotten. I wasn't doing anything wrong, he said. Just the same thing I've done for 50 years. Just relieving stress. He meant masturbation. But it wasn't just the act. It was how he did it, the speed, the tension, the habit of it, and the silence that wrapped around it all. I'm Dr. Thomas Layton. For over 4 decades, I've worked with men like Charles. Men who built, fought, provided, sacrificed, but never learned how to care for themselves once the noise settled. And again, I've seen the same pattern. 4 quiet habits, so common they barely seem worth noticing, yet powerful enough to slowly unravel a man's circulation, his confidence, and his sense of closeness with the world around him. If this message speaks to you, type 1. If you're unsure, type 0. Either way, thank you for listening. And in your youth, relief came quickly. A few minutes alone, a glance, a thought, and the body would respond. But after 60, the story changes. Not because something's wrong with you, but because the body, like any aging engine, requires a gentler hand. The first mistake many older men make is rushing the act, not because they're in a hurry, but because after years of treating it as something shameful or just to get it over with, they've never learned how to slow down. I've had strong, honest men look me in the eye and say, "Doc, I just needed a release. Something quick, something private." And they're not wrong to want that. But the speed, the pressure, it sends a signal to your body that's anything but peaceful. It's what I call vascular panic. Your heart rate spikes, blood surges unpredictably, and the arteries in the pelvic region, already less elastic with age, are forced to do something they're no longer built for: absorb sudden force without warning. You don't feel it right away. But deep beneath the surface, tiny vessels strain, micro-damage builds. And over time, the consequences show up as slower erections, duller sensitivity, less warmth, more frustration. It's not punishment. It's wear and tear. The older male body doesn't respond to chaos. It responds to calm. But every time you sprint toward climax, like it's a deadline, your nervous system tightens instead of releasing. Your hormones shift from arousal to anxiety. And your circulation, your very lifeline, begins to erode quietly, session by session. I often tell my patients, how you treat your body in private echoes into how you feel in public. It shapes how you sleep, how you think, how you love. Intimacy isn't just about climax. It's about connection. And when you rob your body of process, you rob yourself of presence. 0. Now here's where it gets even more subtle and more damaging. Even if a man slows down, he may still be holding tension in a place he never thinks about: his breath. Mistake number 2 is this: masturbating with high pelvic tension and no breathing. When most older men enter private moments, they unconsciously brace. Shoulders lift, belly tightens, and the pelvic floor, the group of deep muscles that surround the base of the penis, locks up like a clenched fist. They think it's normal, but it's not. That tightness strangles blood flow before it even begins. That breath holding signals the nervous system to prepare for impact, not intimacy. The result? Circulation chokes off. Nitric oxide, the chemical that helps open vessels, drops. And instead of a relaxed, responsive state, the body enters a kind of silent war with itself. Over time, that tension becomes habit. And habit becomes dysfunction. One man, I'll never forget him. He was 68, thoughtful, clean living, healthy labs, and yet he sat across from me, confused and ashamed. "I don't understand," he said. "I feel frozen down there. Like I can't even feel when it's happening." I asked him gently, "Were you holding your breath?" He stared at me, then slowly nodded. He had never thought about it. No one had ever told him how breath is connected to arousal. But it is. Your breath is your body's signal system. If you breathe deeply, your vessels open. If you hold it even slightly, they close. It's not poetic. It's biology. So the next time you're alone, listen. Are your shoulders tense? Is your belly drawn in? Are you pushing toward release or relaxing into it? The older you get, the more your body needs cooperation, not control. Tension creates friction. Friction creates damage. And damage creates disconnection. But awareness brings you home. If you're finding this helpful, or you're just starting to think differently about your health after 60, consider hitting the subscribe button. That way, you won't miss future insights made just for men like you. And we're not done. Because even if you breathe deeply, even if you take your time, there's a third mistake most men make. One that doesn't show up in the moment, but builds quietly, over days, weeks, even years. And it has to do with how often, not just how. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me tell you about George. He was 68, a big man, ex-firefighter, still worked out twice a week, still held his wife's hand at the grocery store. But when he sat down in my office, he didn't talk about strength. He talked about silence and frustration. "Doc," he said, "it's like I'm doing everything right, but when it matters, it just doesn't work." I listened, and then I asked him something most men have never been asked in their lives. "When you're alone, you hold your breath?" He looked confused. "Hold my breath? I guess. I never thought about it." Most men don't. But what I've seen again and again is this. As we get older, the tension we never noticed begins to show. And nowhere does that tension speak louder than through the body's quietest systems: blood flow, arousal, connection. And mistake number 2, masturbating with high pelvic tension and breath holding. It sounds minor. It sounds like nothing. But it's everything. See, the pelvic floor isn't just a set of deep muscles. It's a control center, a bridge between your breath, your spine, and your sexual function. When you clench those muscles, when your stomach tightens, your shoulders rise, your breath stops mid-chest, you're not relaxing into pleasure. You're bracing for impact. And here's what happens behind the scenes. Your nervous system goes into sympathetic mode. That's your body's fight or flight switch. It thinks you're under threat. So what does it do? It tightens your arteries. It reduces blood flow to the pelvic area. It suppresses nitric oxide, the very chemical your blood vessels need to open. It's like stepping on the hose right when the garden needs water. And the worst part? You don't even realize it. Because you've done it that way for years. You just assumed this was how it's supposed to feel: tight, fast, maybe a little numb. But numbness isn't natural. It's a warning. The older your body gets, the more it asks for cooperation. Not control. Not effort. Just awareness. I had another patient, Ronald, 71. He said, "I've tried everything: pills, supplements, even vacuum pumps. But nothing's worked. We ran the labs. Nothing remarkable. Testosterone low normal. Blood pressure managed. No major blockages." But when I walked him through a simple breathing check during stimulation, his eyes widened. "I've been doing it all wrong," he said. He had no idea his breath was shallow, tight, held in bursts. That tiny habit, barely noticeable, was strangling his circulation from the inside out. And here's why it matters. The penis is one of the most sensitive vascular structures in the male body. It responds to blood flow, yes. But that flow starts with breath. If you're clenching, you're choking it off. If you're holding, you're halting movement. If you're rushing, you're overriding your body's rhythm. And rhythm is everything. Ninth free. So I tell men this. Next time you're alone, try something different. Before you even begin, place a hand on your belly. Close your eyes. Take one slow breath, then another. Feel your abdomen risen at your chest. Let your breath drop low, like an anchor. As you touch yourself, keep breathing. If you notice tension, stop, reset, relax, return. This isn't about technique. It's about tuning in. The more you breathe, the more blood flows. The more relaxed your muscles, the more responsive your body becomes. And yes, this may feel strange at first, but you're not trying to perform. You're trying to reconnect. Which brings us to the next truth, one most men never see coming until it's too late. Mistake number 3. Masturbating daily without recovery. Let me be clear. There's nothing inherently wrong with touching yourself. It's natural. It's personal. It's human. But the issue isn't the act, it's the rhythm. You see, every time you climax, your body spends, not just physically, but hormonally. It burns through nitric oxide, dopamine, prolactin, even testosterone. And in your 30s, that balance comes back quick. But after 60, it takes time. Time most men don't give themselves. So what happens when you repeat the act daily, sometimes even twice a day, out of habit instead of desire? You begin to hollow out the well, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the signs appear. You feel less afterward. You sense numbness. Your erections are slower, thinner, inconsistent. Your mood dips. Your sleep weakens. You lose interest in actual intimacy even when it's available. And perhaps worst of all, you begin to resent your own body, as if it betrayed you. But it didn't. It's just asking for rest. End quote. One man late 60s, retired teacher told me, "Doc, I do it every day. It's just part of the routine. But afterward, I feel empty." That's not dysfunction. That's depletion. When you don't allow time for your hormones, your vessels, your nervous system to rebuild, you're not engaging with your body. You're grinding it down. And when pleasure becomes mechanical, it loses its ability to nourish. What should be a spark becomes static. So what can you do? First, reduce frequency not from fear, but from respect. You're not 25. You don't need to be. Your body doesn't need constant stimulation. It needs thoughtful stimulation. Every 3 days, maybe every 4, give it a chance to miss the feeling. Give it time to build anticipation again. Second, check in. Each time you feel the urge, ask, is this about connection or just distraction? If it's connection, breathe, slow down, stay present. If it's distraction, maybe try something else first. A walk, a journal, a breath. Sometimes desire isn't missing. It's just buried beneath habit. And most importantly, don't measure your worth by performance. Your body isn't a machine. It's a living, breathing messenger. And if it's whispering to you right now, with fatigue, with silence, with resistance, that isn't failure. It's feedback. The good news? You can respond. In the next and final part of this conversation, I'll show you exactly how. A small plan, a rhythm of breath and rest and presence to help your body remember what it's capable of. Because it hasn't given up on you. It's just waiting to be treated like something worth returning to. Let's take a quiet moment here. You've come this far. You've listened, reflected, maybe even tried tapping for the first time in years. And now, the question remains, what do you do with all of this? Because it's one thing to understand a technique. It's another to carry it into your life when no one's watching. That's where the real healing begins. I want you to picture this next week, not as a test, but as a return. Not a challenge, but a reunion. A reunion with your own body. Each morning, before your day begins, before you reach for the paper or check your message, just take 2 minutes. Find a quiet corner. Place your hands just below your navel. Breathe. Tap. Let your day begin from the center of your strength. Then, as your thoughts begin to rise, bring your fingers to the top of your head. Tap the GV20 point. Feel the chatter quiet, like a pond settling after a stone skips across the surface. Finally, bring your attention downward, to the soles of your feet. Tap the K 1 point gently, as if reminding your legs they're still your foundation, still carrying you forward, still connected to the earth. That's it. That's the sequence. It's not magic. It's not performance. It's presence. Oh, one of my patients, Howard, 67, divorced, retired construction foreman, started doing this every morning. He said something I'll never forget. "Doc, I don't think my body's ever heard me say good morning before, but now it does. That's what this is. A greeting, a reconnection, a reminder. Your body isn't against you. It's waiting for you. And every time you rush through touch, every time you treat pleasure like a race, every time you clench instead of breathe, your body isn't failing, it's defending. It's bracing for the next time you ignore what it really needs. But when you slow down, when you return with intention, when you listen instead of push, something changes. I mean, this isn't just about erections. It's about circulation, about identity, about the quiet, often invisible relationship you have with yourself. When that relationship is healthy, everything else follows. Sleep improves, mood softens, confidence grows not from performance, but from peace. I've seen men rediscover joy in their marriages after years of numbness. I've seen widowers reconnect with their own skin after decades of silence. And I've seen older men, strong, stoic, proud, finally shed the weight of shame they didn't even know they were carrying. There's something you should know. You're not alone in this. There are thousands, millions of men just like you. Men who did their best, who worked hard, who loved quietly, who endured without complaint. And now, at this stage of life, they're realizing something that no one told them, that even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, you are still allowed to want, to feel, to touch, to be touched, to be desired, to heal. The body isn't a machine you wore out. It's a living story. And every time you return to it with care, you give that story a new page. I once asked a patient. Tom Hay was 81, what kept him going. He'd lost his wife 5 years prior, was living alone, and had recently started a small garden behind his house. He looked out the window and said, "You know, Doc, sometimes I sit out there before sunrise, and I feel like I'm starting over every morning. Not because I've lost my way, but because there's something left to grow." That stayed with me, because in this life, especially after 60, we don't need grand reinventions. We just need reminders. Reminders that the body still belongs to us, that pleasure is not behind us, that we are still allowed to want, to touch, to be touched. And tapping this small, gentle ritual is one such reminder. So if you've been wondering what to do next, here it is. Start your next 7 mornings with this practice. And don't expect fireworks. Expect stillness. Expect quiet change. Expect presence. And if you've been holding guilt over habits you didn't know were hurting you, like breathless stimulation, tension, rushing, or daily depletion, forgive yourself. You weren't failing. You were doing what you knew. Now you know something different, and that means you can choose something better. That's what this video was for. Not to shame, but to show. Not to judge, but to invite. Your age is not the end. It's the threshold, on bell. So if this message touched you, perhaps share it quietly, as it was shared with you, with a brother, a friend, a man who's still quietly carrying the belief that it's too late. Let him know it's not. Let him hear what you just heard. And if you'd like more guidance like this, more reflections, more honest talk from someone who sees the whole man, not just his symptoms, subscribe. Not for content, for connection, because that's what this is really about. You are not alone. You are not broken. And you are not done. You're just returning, and your body has been waiting.